essentially, decentralized finance is really, it's a new way of thinking about how we provide financial services and how we deliver those financial services to everybody on this planet.
How does the concept of decentralized finance differ from traditional models? And where is this space going in the next 5 to 10 years? Let's get the lowdown from an industry thought leader. Max Kantelia, Zilliqa.
Good morning, everybody. How are we all? All right, so just by way of introduction, my name's Max Kantelia, and I'm a co-founder at a company called Zilliqa. For those of you that don't know about Zilliqa, let me just give you a little bit of an introduction. So firstly, we are the first public blockchain platform in the world to actually launch a mainnet using a technique called sharding. Sharding basically allows us to achieve high throughput in a public blockchain without the trade-offs that we make in this trilemma of scalability, security, and decentralization. We've also built our own smart contract language that's formally verifiable. Beyond the technology, we've started to look at adoption very, very carefully. We have a grants program that enables people who have really creative ideas to build dApps. We grant them capital to build applications on top of Zilliqa. But we're also looking at how we get big industry adoption. And there are two industries that we are targeting: digital advertising and marketing, and financial services on a blockchain. Just for your information, we've achieved around 2,800 transactions per second. And I'm afraid that's essential. Even that's not enough, but it's essential if we're going to talk about things like decentralized finance. High throughput, safety, and security are essential if we're going to build DeFi. Okay, so I talked about how, on the previous slide, we want to look at big pain points. So financial services at a global level is a major pain point. You know, it's shocking that there are still close to 2 billion people around the world that don't have access to financial services. I was in San Francisco last week, and a very close friend of mine told me that there are actually 10 million households, roughly 40 million people in the US alone, that don't have access to banking services. So my point here is that it's not just about the emerging markets. When people talk about decentralized finance, they're focusing too much on the emerging world. It's not just about the emerging world, because the developed world shares the same issues. Look at the numbers. You know, half of these people that are unbacked are female. Half of them are very, very young adults. And you know, we really need to solve this. There is good news, though, because this technology that we called the mobile, I think basically has accelerated beyond you know, most of our wildest dreams. 2/3 of the world's population actually has access to a mobile. So when we consider that there is a medium here by which we can deliver these financial services to the unbanked, now I think things start to become really, really possible. Let's give him a bit of good press, okay, because I think he needs it and deserves a little bit of it. But Mr. Zuckerberg did say something quite compelling a little while back, and I thought it was worth sharing because it very nicely and simply, you know, this actually says it all. So then, just a quick show of hands. How many people in the room are actually familiar with what DeFi is? Yeah, you know, yet another jargon, but oh, I saw at least 4 or 5 hands going up, so that's good. Well, essentially, decentralized finance is really, it's a new way of thinking about how we provide financial services and how we deliver those financial services to everybody on this planet that has access to to some form of a technology platform. It's fintech on a blockchain, but I think it's taking fintech a step further, and we'll look at that in just a moment. But essentially, decentralization is about removing the middle person. We actually don't need that person any longer. And some people describe it as open finance. Some people describe it as the internet of money. We can look at it we can call it whatever we want to, but essentially it's providing financial services to a much, much larger population than we do today. So I talked earlier about how decentralized finance is as applicable to the developed markets as it is to emerging markets. And in the developed markets, I think that we can achieve much, much greater transparency. I think actually that we can create much better efficiency. I've actually been an entrepreneur all my life, but actually mainly around the financial market space, because I've always wanted to change some of the legacies that exist. Things like T+2. Why is it that it takes 2 days to settle a securities, for God's sakes? And so in the developed markets, there's as much change that can be brought as there is in the emerging markets. The numbers are a little bit bigger, but I think this is the huge opportunity. So this is a really interesting way for me to show you how we've gone from the traditional financial services world, here on the left, through evolution of fintech over the last 5 to 7 years. And we've seen some enormous companies being built in just the last 5 to 7 years, which the traditional bankers never thought would happen, let me tell you. So companies like the Lending Club, look at what Revolut and TransferWise are doing today. Over dinner last night, I had members of my team raving about how they love Revolut. When was the last time you heard somebody raving about a major retail banking name? It doesn't happen anymore. The interesting thing is that as we move to DeFi, we can do a heck of a lot more. And already today, for those of you that are following this space, there are components of the DeFi space, and there are many, by the way, where there are already really interesting companies coming into play. And we need to build an ecosystem of exchanges, of traders, of stable coins, payment platforms, as well as people that can build lending and borrowing applications. We need to bring all of this together, but there are people already brave enough to be doing this. And I really urge you to go and take a look at what some of these people are doing. Let's pick on one particular application that we're probably all familiar with. Lending and borrowing. So peer-to-peer lending has been growing year on year at an unprecedented rate. And I think that there are huge opportunities to put lending and borrowing on a blockchain, peer-to-peer technology. And there are massive similarities, I think, in the advantages that can be achieved. However, we can achieve so much more transparency and efficiency by putting lending onto a blockchain. Smart contract risk is an issue, but again, companies such as Zilliqa are building secure, safe, smart contracts to protect the consumer. Just to round off, at Zilliqa, we are really very excited about what we can do within this space. I think the opportunity is absolutely enormous. We've already spelled out for ourselves a 2.5-year timeline. I want to compress that by 50%, which means that the team is going to have to work exceptionally hard. But there's a lot to be done, and we need to collaborate with other people to achieve all of these things. But actually, yesterday, we made an announcement that you can Google, which is very, very exciting. So with a company that's regulated in Singapore, a company called XFers, yesterday we announced a partnership whereby we're going to be looking at how we build a pilot Singapore dollar stablecoin. Stablecoins, for those of you that are not familiar, are a very essential infrastructure component before we can go out and build some of these applications. But thank you for listening to me. I couldn't, excuse me for the pun, but I had to put it on there. Have a really lovely Friday and a great weekend, and thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you.